A $400,000 deposit, followed by a 60% rate increase, is not a social outing with a supporter. It is a material conflict of interest that creates a systemic deficit in the transparency of Arizona's foster care system.
Welcome back to Square Off. Republicans are gearing up for more than just a legislative session. Many are planning to make Governor Katie Hobbs' life miserable as she pursues a second four-year term in office. We're continuing our conversation with Governor Hobbs ahead of the start of the legislative session on Monday. Now, according to the Republic's Stacey Bartschinger, there are 3 investigations of an alleged pay-to-play scheme involving one of your inauguration and Democratic Party donors. His company received a rate increase on a state contract for group homes as he touted his connections to you. That's according to Stacey Bartschinger's reporting. One of the investigations is by Democratic Attorney General Chris Mays. Have any of Chris Mays' investigators talked to you?
No.
Have they talked to anybody on your staff?
Yes.
They have. So that investigation is ongoing. Last year, you vetoed a bill sponsored by Republican Senator T.J. Shope that would have required state contractors to reveal donations to the governor going back 5 years. Why did you veto that bill?
We are witnessing a high-risk portfolio of 3 simultaneous investigations where the chain of custody for taxpayer dollars leads directly from a foster home operator's inaugural contribution to a massive exclusive payout. While Governor Katie Hobbs calls it a political stunt, the forensic audit trail reveals an operational variance where one politically connected company was granted a multi-million-dollar premium while every other competitor was left in a state of regulatory denial. This is the Arizona pay-to-play audit, and we are documenting a scenario where the internal controls of the governor's office are being stress-tested by a full-blown racketeering inquiry that threatens to liquidate her political brand before the next election cycle.
Well, that bill really was a political stunt, and I am absolutely interested in increasing accountability and transparency in government contracting, and lobbying, and ethics. And you'll see a proposal from me in the next few weeks doing just that. But I'm not interested in doing something that's just a political stunt and doesn't actually bring more transparency.
I am Camilo Motato, and this is Camilo's House. As a certified public accountant focused on forensic verification, I approach a state administration like a distressed entity, where the management, discussion, and analysis doesn't reconcile with the physical assets of the state. In a standard financial audit, if you find that a contractor provided a significant capital injection to the managing director just before receiving a non-competitive rate hike, you immediately flag the organization for fraudulent disclosure. Today, we are performing a transactional integrity audit on Katie Hobbs. We are analyzing the materiality of the rate hike for Sunshine Residential, the systemic obstruction created by her recent vetoes, and the tri-front investigation that has reached a critical stage today, April 13, 2026. The operational breach involves Sunshine Residential homes. The audit trail shows Sunshine Residential pumped $400,000 into Governor Hobbs' campaign and the Arizona Democratic Party. Shortly after this cash inflow, the administration approved a massive 60% rate hike specifically for Sunshine. In forensic accounting terms, their daily unit price jumped from $195 to $234 per child per day. That accounts for a $4.5 million payday in taxpayer dollars. This rate arbitrage was granted exclusively to Sunshine, while other providers were systemically denied. This preferential treatment is a red flag. Internal communications within the Department of Child Safety reportedly show staff discussing Sunshine's political connections to the governor. In auditing, this is a documented management override of internal controls. House Speaker Steve Montenegro has formed an advisory team to perform a hostile audit of these contracts. He is evaluating whether this was a wicked deal designed to reward a donor at the expense of a social service budget that is already facing a critical shortfall. The transparency deficit of the Hobbs administration has hit DEFCON 1 because of her veto stamp. Governor Hobbs holds the record for vetoes. From a forensic integrity perspective, 2 specific vetoes are material disclosures. She vetoed a bill that would have required state contractors to reveal their donations to the governor going back 5 years. By liquidating this bill, she is protecting the anonymity of the very pay-to-play transactions she is currently being investigated for. Her second regulatory default was the veto of a bill requiring school districts to post the contracts and salaries of top executives online. When you block the salaries of the management at the top, you are impairing the transparency of the entire state's human capital management. The geopolitical stress on Governor Hobbs is now a multi-front war. She is currently facing 3 separate investigations, one by the Republican-led House, one by the Auditor General, and one by the Democratic Attorney General Chris Mays. In a professional conflict scenario, when your own party auditor starts questioning your receipts, your political credit score enters junk territory. This drip of controversy is drowning out her attempts to talk about infrastructure. In risk assessment terms, the Hobbs brand is in receivership. We must also audit her social worker defense. Hobbs claims she had no conversation about the rate increase, but the forensic evidence includes a material disclosure of a dinner she and her campaign manager attended with the Sunshine residential owner. As an investigative auditor, I track the nexus of influence. This is a conflict of interest default. Even if they never talked about the contract, the appearance of impropriety creates a reputational impairment. My forensic verdict on the Katie Hobbs pay-to-play scandal is that we are witnessing the total breakdown of the Department of Child Safety ledger. The 60% rate hike for a donor subsidiary is a material fraud on the taxpayers. The vetoing of transparency covenants is a management override that redacts the truth from the public. Whether it is Sunshine Residential or school district contracts, the Hobbs administration is liquidating the public trust to protect its private partners. The November re-election will be the final reconciliation of her managerial performance. If the 3 investigations certify the pay-to-play narrative, then the voters of Arizona will liquidate her position as the chief executive. Until the Attorney General and the House Advisory Team can reconcile the $400,000 inflow with the $4.5 million outflow, Governor Katie Hobbs remains a high-risk liability on the Arizona balance sheet. I want to hear from you. Is the social outing with a $400K donor a legitimate management practice, or is it the smoking gun of a systemic pay-to-play default? Should a governor have the sovereign power to veto the disclosure of her own campaign receipts? Let me know in the comments. Your perspective is the only audit that matters. I am Camilo Motato, and this is Camilo's House. Subscribe to stay informed on the numbers, the laws, and the truth behind the headlines. Stay safe.